If you had to choose one word that best describes a Shyamaprasad movie, that word would be intense. The same applies to the man himself. Today, as we celebrate the 50th episode of Filmi Talk, it's a pleasure and an honor to have with us this brilliant filmmaker, gifted with a unique ability to unravel the mysteries of the mind and portray its many hues. We have with us Sri Shyamaprasad. What is it that you enjoy the most? Is it the before, the after, or the actual process of filmmaking?
The process of filmmaking starts very early, right? Like when you come across a story or some material which you want to develop into a story. So, and then it moves on, probably takes a year or so. And then you come to the shooting stage and then the post-production and so on. So it's altogether, it will consume about 2 years.
Okay.
For me, the entire journey is exciting. When you're trying to conceive it, that's where actually the real structure is worked out, and you are groping about, where should you focus? I mean, what's your emotional thrust? What do you value in that story? Has it come across in the screenplay? And such very critical, creative questions are posed at that time. And the execution of it in the shooting is another joy, because you're working with actors, with technicians. So you learn so many things, you change so many things, you improve. And then the post, actually, you have to see it very objectively. You have to forget whatever that you thought that you wanted, whatever difficulties that you went through while shooting. You have to forget all that and look at the pictures before you, the sounds before you, and then create from there. So that's actually the most orgasmic part of filmmaking, where you combine sound and image and the music and everything comes through, and it gets a different life altogether. So I can't identify any particular sequence of that as more important than the rest. However, I think working with actors is really a joy. That's something I really cherish working, and I guess that's one of my biggest strengths. And later working on the music.
Okay.
Because I plan quite a lot right from the start on music. By music I mean the background score, not the songs.
Okay.
So those two are areas where I gain more pleasure. But I think every aspect is very important.
Most acclaimed movies are ones that move out into the world, but your movies are journeys into the mind. So what's your take on that observation?
I cannot agree with you on that, because there are fabulous movies which are very introspective world over, and they continue to get made, right from Fellini to Kurosawa to Bergman to Steven Soderbergh currently. So that inward look is very important for an art, I believe. And it's a reflection of the outside as well. It's not that the outside is excluded. The outside actually evolves you in a way that you look inside.
But that's always been the thrust of your movies.
I don't know. I mean, that's for the critics like you to evaluate. I don't look at it as any particular, as like filling in any particular slot or genre. I just do my stuff and get out.
You talked about light and sound and image. Light and music especially are integral to your movies.
Right.
How is it that you manipulate this to create such a profound impact on the viewer?
Well, as for light, that's the essential, that's the alphabet of what you see. You see things because there is light on it. So the amount of light and the play that it makes on the image is of fundamental creative value and functional value in filmmaking. Right from my theatre days, drama school days, I had been enticed by the design aspect, design of light through color, through texture, through patterns. So, that actually continues to take a very important part of my filming, my imagery all the time. Though I don't see film as primarily as a graphic medium. There are many filmmakers who look at filmmaking as a graphic art. While I do think that the graphic quality of films are very important, I think film is fundamentally a dramatic form, like theatre, where time and space is involved, and thoughts are involved, and emotion is evocative in it. So it's a very sensuous medium than a graphic medium. So in that level, I sometimes underplay the photographic quality for a bit of great acting, or a fabulous sound which goes with the picture. As for the music, of course, as I told you, background scoring is what I consider as film music. Film songs are, as I always say, is a necessary evil, which you can't do without.
But there are some beautiful songs in your movies.
Yeah, I try desperately to make it enjoyable, so that that isn't stuck out. And so apart from the songs, the music actually plays, the background score plays a very important part. It actually makes a signature of the film. It actually speaks the mind of the maker in that level, because most of the subtler human emotions are really indecipherable. You can't actually put into words. So music actually is a big
medium
use.
too,
Yeah, it gives the other dimension. Usually, you see in our kind of movies, you see music as a kind of emotional crutch. When there is a sad scene, the director uses it to emphasize the sadness. When there is a comedy, he uses some kind of funny music, I think. But I would like to use music in a contrapunctual way. Music says what is not on the screen. Music actually gives another dimension to it as a subtext. So I've been exploring the use of music, especially Western music, in the film, and yeah.
You've always raised a strong voice against the categorization of your films as art films.
Yeah.
And you say there's no need for a distinction between an art film and a commercial movie. But why in the first place do you think your films get typecast?
Well, whether you like it or not, the market will categorize you, because they need everything simplified, to reduce the risk factor. So they know that, it's a Shyamaprasad movie, so it will be something cerebral or, deep or dark, or which are not. They are not actually, I guess, because there are a lot of lighter moments. I think it's a very sensuous. I mean, not just me. Many filmmakers get categorized like that, unfortunately. And now there is a new categorization called New Generation, and all that. I think these are all, the laziness of the critics and the market decision makers to, make it simpler for their job. But I don't mentally try to fit into, any particular slot, as I said earlier. I just go with the theme and find an expression, a style which is suitable for that. I mean, the expression of Ritu is different from expression of Kadal, is different from artist, for instance.
What are the parameters you set when you decide upon a story for your movie?
Well, it should move me intensely. It should be relevant to me. It should have meaning for me. And I should be able to find myself in it. Okay. More often I'm asked, why do I take other people's works?
Yeah, that was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
Most of it is literary adaptations.
Yeah.
So don't you have a story that you want to tell the world?
It's because firstly, since I'm not a writer, and I think writing is a completely different art altogether, and which is a much more complicated and challenging art. So I don't want to dabble in something which I am not,
Sure about.
yeah, which I am not good at.
Okay.
Okay. Whereas I think a content or a story or a plot is one of the fundamental elements in it, but just one element. Because film is not a story. Filmmaker is not a storyteller. Filmmaker is an artist who creates an experiential world for a plot, for a context. So his art is actually creating that experiential world with the sound and images and movement. So for me, story is just one part.
Okay.
And in that story, I make sure that I find myself, that it is me, or it is mine in some way, or during the process of filmmaking, it becomes mine. Like I may be talking about the Nambudiri Illams of the 40s and 50s, but I am actually talking about me, a man in the 1990s.
At any time in this process, is the audience in your mind?
Yes and no, because when you are concerned about the medium, you are concerned about what it actually projects and how much and how long and all that. So when the medium is your basic concern, you are obviously thinking of the audience. But it is not the audience sensibility or an imaginary audience like the youth or the urban audience or the rural audience, BC class Nagapara. It's not that kind of categorization. Whether the use of the medium, the way that I do, is strong enough to reach a particular strength of audience. But the sensibilities of the audience that I have in mind is always me. It should be something which I would like to see. It is my sensibility, because that's the only one I can trust. Because if I make films for the youth, the 40 plus or the 50 plus is going to turn away. If I make film for the urban, the rural are going to turn away. So, and it's all very hazy and very quickly changing and everything. So why should I depend my film on an imaginary sensibility?
Okay.
Whereas if I am conscious of my own sensibility, and if I am honest to my own sensibility, that's